This is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. The question is, does your tomatoes look like this? So, yes, this is not my house, alright, so I gotta get that out there. My tomatoes would not look like this. Or I'd probably pull them, actually, if they're diseased. This one looks like it might have some disease there. But mainly what it looks like to me is these tomatoes are just small, maybe not that large, and you can take a look at some of these other tomatoes. I mean, these cherries are doing a lot better over here. You know, they got lots of ripe cherry tomatoes. This is my neighbor's house, and I want to stop in because I did have an episode where they showed, they put these in, and I think it's great that they're growing in containers in their front yard. And I'm kind of wondering, why the tomatoes aren't looking well. So, I'm not the gardening expert or anything. I know a little bit, but, we're going to go down to my house and check out how big my tomatoes that were probably planted at a similar time, they're just literally towering over these guys. And the only thing I could say that makes a difference is, number one, the soil. Looks like they're just using, soil maybe from bags. I'm not exactly sure what they're using, but maybe like soil bags from Lowe's or Home Depot or big box store that maybe doesn't have as much nutrition as we really need. So getting a good organic compost, enriching with compost, and using also the rock dust minerals make a really big difference on your plant vitality and health. Just like we're supposed to take a mineral supplement for our health because, the minerals aren't in our foods anymore. Our plants need the minerals, and when our plants have the minerals, they're healthier. And then when we eat those plants that grew in the minerals, then we get the minerals, thereby we don't need a mineral supplement. Here's their zucchini plant, and I don't know if they've had any off of it yet. But you can see it's kind of getting some rot here on the end, and it's rather small. The leaves aren't that big. It just looks like to me this has stunted growth, and the reason is probably the soil nutrition and or the watering schedule. I'm not exactly sure their watering schedule, but you know what, most people put in a garden and they get really excited about it. They get some containers like this and some plants, they put them in, then they kind of like remember to water it here and there. But if you're gonna get into gardening, you know what I'd say, you need to really stay committed to it. And be committed to your plants. These are other living things on earth here, and we should try to take care of them, and they're going to produce food for us. We have a symbiotic relationship with them. They produce food, we eat the food, and then we poop out the seeds, and then the seeds grow into new plants. And that's why most plants are here on earth for us. So I thought my peppers weren't growing too well, and they're pretty large and have abundant actually peppers that aren't quite ripening up yet. But here's some peppers, just a few doors down. And actually, this house is for sale. So if you're interested in buying this house, I don't want to really disclose my address to anybody. But if you're interested in buying this house, email me privately, and I'll get you in contact with the realtor who's selling this house. It's selling for $290,000, and it's a 3-bedroom house on a lot similar to mine. But this is a sweet banana pepper heirloom, and it's just really small. The leaves aren't quite as green as they could be. We got some basil here next to us, and it's sad. It's really sad when I see people growing things and they're just not doing well, because guess what? People get frustrated, then they get discouraged, and then they get turned off by gardening. And I want people to be turned on, and I want people to be excited about gardening like I am, and that's why I share what I do with you guys out there, so you guys could see how to be more successful at gardening, and how to at least produce some decent yields, some decent crops, and how to pack the produce in there. Because this bed here is a nice large size, but it's like they could use the space more efficiently. But it all depends. My goal is to produce a significant amount of produce and food on my small residential property, and maybe other people just wanted a garden for decoration. So let's go down and next take a look at my sweet banana peppers growing, and my zucchini and my tomatoes, to compare how it's doing, and we'll go over some of the soil nutrition and some of the good practices that I use in my garden. Now we're in my garden, and this is my pepper bed. We planted these peppers out the earliest, and the conditions between my neighbor's house just a few doors down and my house are pretty much the same. We're both planted peppers in our front yard, so I'm happy we have something in common. But my peppers are doing a little better, and why is that? Well, I don't know exactly what he's using and what he's growing in the soil and his watering. But I can tell you some of the best practices, or the practices that I use to ensure a good, pepper crop and pepper success. I don't know if I saw any peppers on his plant, but you can see here, this is a banana pepper plant, and it is just loaded with peppers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, over a dozen peppers. Then there's new ones starting. Here's a little, oops, I just pulled it off. This was going to be a pepper now. It's not. I just pulled it off. But anyways, yeah, and the pepper's still flowering. It's still going to make more. And, you know, there's nice, large, dark foliage. And that's one of the signs, you know, if your foliage isn't, you know, nice and deep green, maybe there's something going on. And I have to be honest with you, when we first planted these peppers, you know, my pepper plants actually look like his. And I had to figure out why that was happening. So we actually did some soil testing. And that's another upcoming episode I'm going to have for you guys, where we learned that my soil, even though I was using organic compost, was, you know, maybe not as good as it could be. So we need to basically tweak it and get it into shape. And then we kept growing, and then things took off. So, you know, in gardening, there's always going to be adjustments. You can't just buy plants, put them in some soil, and expect them to grow. And in some cases that might happen, but in a lot of cases, you know, you might have to tweak things a little bit and, you know, bring in some further fertility, because most soils are devoid of nutrition. And so I bring in organic compost and the rock dust. And the other thing, if you look closely down here, we got these pellets. And all these pellets are basically, they're just chicken manure pellets. Pelletized chicken manure composted. So it's easier to handle than the fresh composted chicken manure. And that adds nitrogen. And I think the main thing this bed was lacking was the nitrogen. And we added some of that and added some other hydroponic liquid organic nutrients to this bed. And, you know, it's taken off, and it's just done really well. So here's a similar zucchini plant, you know, that my neighbor's growing a couple doors down, and then my plant. And as you can see, this has really big leaves, and we started to try to train it up a stake, and then it kind of got sideways on us, and it's still flowering, still producing lots of zucchinis, and it's just a lot healthier, has a lot bigger leaves, a lot darker leaves than his. Now, you know, it's probably either the soil or the watering, because otherwise the sunlight and everything else is probably fairly similar. Maybe the varieties are a little bit different, but for all practical purposes, you know, zucchinis are going to do well in this climate here. So you can take a look at, I have some large zucchinis here, some small ones, and then some larger ones, and actually a really large one here on the bottom that I'm probably going to harvest today. And when they get this big, they're still good. You know, what I like to do with them when they're this big is I actually like to juice them up. They're nice and juicy, and they make a nice, delicious vegetable juice mixed in with some other you know, cucumbers and greens. So the main thing is, you know, soil, soil, soil. Your plants are the soil, and you know, we are the plants. So we need to make sure our soil and what we're growing in, the growing medium, is really, really nutritious for our plants. Now, how do we create soil fertility? Well, you know what? Soil fertility takes millions of years, and you know, the nature does this automatically. Leaves drop, things compost, birds poop, animals poop, it all mixes up, gets broken down, and then the plants live off that broken down composted material. So that's how I encourage everybody to make soil fertility, is to bring in more compost and bring in finished compost. And if you can't bring in finished compost, bring in some unfinished compost, as in manure or leaves, and make your own compost at your own home. You could do this with worm bins. I'm going to have an upcoming episode on worm bins. You could do this with a compost pile. You know, you could do it in your kitchen. They have this nature composter that actually heats up and makes it in, you know, compost in a small space, an appliance to make compost. But it doesn't have to get that fancy. You could literally just shovel everything into a pile and compost will happen. So I grow in 100% compost. Use compost in your garden and use the rock dust minerals, which we're going to show you in a minute, to add soil fertility so you could have big zucchinis, big tomatoes, and make sure you water right too. You know, I have everything on a drip system. You can't really see it's being hidden. But, you know, the watering is consistent watering, so the plant knows. It's like when we get to eat, you know, we want to eat, we want to wake up and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner about the same time every day. How would you feel if you, like, you know, where your lunch was prolonged until, like, evening, and then you kind of get really tired and cranky? Well, you know, our plants don't get tired and cranky, but they revolt, and they don't grow as big. They don't like it as much when they don't get, you know, at least enough adequate watering. And I have other videos on adequate watering, so check those out as well to find out if you're adequately watering your plants. So here we are next to my tomato bed. This tomato bed is about 40 feet long, 4 feet wide. I have tomatoes spaced out about every 2 feet, so they're really packed in there nice and tightly, you know. And let's see, these are how big my tomatoes have gotten already. These tomatoes have been growing up these cages, and this cage is actually a little bit tipping over, and we have to tie it up. This plant is probably about 6 feet tall, and if you look closely, we did a harvest yesterday because I'm dehydrating tomatoes to make sun-dried tomatoes right now. So we harvest a lot, but there's a lot of unripe ones, and this tomato is a lot more lush and vibrant than, you know, my neighbor's tomato just a few doors down in the same climate conditions. Once again, what's different? The soil and the watering. So I have a regular watering schedule. I think the tomatoes go on every other day. Tomatoes like a deep watering and then like to dry out a little bit versus, just being constantly watered. You saw how my plants looked, healthier and more productive than my neighbor's plants. And people that farm for a living and, commercial industries, they know about at least adding NPK and having some level of soil fertility, or at least providing the plant the bare minimum of what it needs to be healthy, and that's NPK. They've done studies that show, if you give NPK, the plants will grow a lot better, but it doesn't mean the plant's gonna be healthier. So if you just want big plants and healthier plants, you could basically put things like Miracle-Gro on and NPK, which are basically a fast shot. It's like giving a kid a candy bar and he gets really hyperactive, but only for a little while, and in the long run, it's not really that healthy to be eating a lot of candy bars. It'll rot out your teeth and all kinds of other problems, and that's why maybe you should give a kid an apple or a pear or some oranges or bananas, which is basically good, sustained energy, and you're going to build, a better and healthier child that way. And the same thing goes with our plants. So instead of just giving Miracle-Gro or NPK to make things look big and lush, it's basically like a fast burn, and it's not contributing to the overall health of the planet, of your plants, or of you. You should use things that are going to be sustainable in the long run. And what we want to do is we want to build soil, build fertility to do this. And the soil is the lifeblood of the plants. The soil makes up the plants. Whatever's in the soil is going to be in the plants. So what I encourage everybody to do is grow in as much compost as they can, whether it's a mixture of good organic compost in your regular soil or all compost like I'm doing here. And the other main ingredient that I use, and everybody should be using this, and if you're not, go out and try to find some. Can be difficult and challenging to find, but if you don't listen to anything else I say, listen to this, because this is the most important thing you could do to have larger yields, healthier plants, and larger plants that are just going to be more resistant to bugs and diseases. And actually the plants, the leaves, and the fruits are going to taste sweeter. They're going to taste better, because when the plants have the minerals, we have mineral receptors on our tongues, and that's why we think salt tastes so good, because we really like to eat minerals. And most foods are devoid of minerals, and when you grow mineral-rich foods, you're going to be like, wow, that is really good. It's going to just take your tomatoes or cucumbers or whatever you're growing to that next level. And this is what I have today to show you guys. This is the two different rock dust varieties that I personally use here. One is called Azomite. It's actually from a company out of Kansas City, Missouri, and this is a micronized rock dust in a small particle, basically so the plants could absorb it. And the website is Azomite, AZOMITE.com. You could go to their website and find local distributors or places that sell the Azomite, or you could order it directly from them. It does come in a 44-pound bag. The other kind I use is actually called Gaia Green Glacial Rock Dust, and this is from a company out of Canada. It's www.gaiagreen.ca, and this is imported into the U.S. This is the glacial rocks that are basically ground up into a fine rock powder so that the plants could absorb them. If you can't find these two, these are the horticultural grades, or basically for growing foods. You could go to a regular rock quarry and get the finest particle size ground up rocks. Sometimes they call it rock dust or different things. And make sure it has, mostly dust and as minimal gravel as possible. I bought a load one time, figuring I'd save money, because it's a lot cheaper to buy a truckload of the rock dust from the quarry than to get a bag of this stuff. But you know what? The nutrition and the nutrients and the mineral levels may not be the same. So that's why I really recommend these two guys. These are tried and true, proven ways, and they work really well. And which one is better? Well, you know what? I use both because they're from different sources. They both have minerals, and they're both good. I tend to use more of the Gaia Green because it's a little bit less expensive than this guy. And the other thing you can do, if you absolutely can't find any rock dust in your area, you want to get this stuff called ocean grown and some seawater. I have some. I'll have a future episode on that. It's seawater with the minerals, but we got to think, where do the minerals come from originally? Well, the minerals came from the rocks. The rocks eroded and then came into the earth, and then all that runs off into the ocean. So the ocean also has the minerals because our topsoils are demineralized, and all that's run off into the ocean now. So we could also use deep ocean water, which is what the ocean-grown minerals are. So hope you've learned a little bit today about soil fertility and growing healthier and more vibrant plants than your neighbors. Not that that's my goal, but it's always fun to say, yeah, look at my plants, they're doing a lot better. But maybe I should go over there and knock on his door and offer him some rock dust and some good compost to to get them more excited about, growing and be more successful. So once again, this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Keep growing and growing some rock dust. Your plants will enjoy it and you will see the benefits.